Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amin al-karim. This is the second part of today's reading. We're talking about the first point to note is the immediacy of experience. Sorry. Immediacy and experience as to important word. All experience is immediate, he said. And here he said the immediacy of mystic experience simply means that's that God has other objects. So it's possible, and probably it looks more natural to read here. Immediacy just mean that. So it seems like immediacy as some sort of so it looks like immediacy doesn't necessarily means non-conceptual. So it doesn't mean directness in the sense of non-conceptual. And immediacy here might mean just experience in general. And when he said that all experience is immediate, probably what all experience is immediate. So probably he doesn't mean that all experience is non-conceptual, because that would be more contentious point. But probably what he means that all experience is direct experience of a subject of knowledge, for example. So, for example, my knowledge of Karachi or Melbourne or London is, or any other city I visited, is direct or immediate in that sense, that I had the experience myself. But my knowledge of, say, for example, Makkah, Azadallahu Sharafaha, is indirect because, for example, I haven't personally visited Makkah, and so I don't have any direct experience of Makkah, so my knowledge is not based on. So this sort of direct experience can also mean immediate here. And this gels with gels well with, for example, how tajriba, which is often translated as experience, is used in a classical text. For example, Imam Abu Hamid Muhammad al-Ghazali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when he talks about the types of reason or rationality, the types of intellect in Ihya ul-Ulum, for example, when he talks about tajriba, there what he means is experience, or in this sense, that is direct experience. not in the sense of conceptual or non-conceptual. So that's a different debate. So, and also this and this meaning is quite old in philosophy and other branches of knowledge, in non-Islamic traditions as well, probably Christian tradition or early modern traditions or even classical traditions in different non-Islamic and Islamic communities. So, for example, in German language, the word for experience, so this is A11. This is noun, I think, and the verb is erleben, which means to experience something, among other things. And after our last session, I happened to just pick up Gadamer's book, Truth and Method, the translation, Truth and Method. It's one of the classical work of modern philosophy. And there he had some important or enlightening discussion of experience. I don't want to get into that. Maybe we'll read at some point. We'll read it at some point. But I just want to look at what Gadamer says about experience there, and whether it can shed some light on our discussion of experience and immediacy in the context of Alamic Wall's discussion. So one of the things which caught my eye was actually I had marked that place, but that's the first thing I read on the page anyway. So there Gadamer says, or rather his translator says, that Erleben means primarily, unfortunately I don't have a PDF, so I'll just write it first and then I'll have a look. I'll just write it down first and then we'll see. Okay, so here is from page number 53 of the English translation. Gadamer says that Erleben means primarily, in German language, I guess, to be still alive when something happens. And experience is immediate in that sense. Because if you are alive and something happens, you have sort of a direct contact with it, or the possibility of direct experience with it. So here immediacy means directness, not in the sense of non-conceptual or conceptual debate, but in the sense of being there. So it's more like immediacy here means first-hand experience. To experience something directly, first-hand, not in the conceptual or non-conceptual sense of the word. So that gives us another meaning which Iqbal might have in mind. So when Iqbal says that all experience is immediate, probably now I think more correctly what he means is all experience is first-hand experience. By definition, otherwise it's not an experience. And the question of how that first-hand experience should be analyzed in terms of content and concept, that's a secondary question. So let's reread that paragraph according to this new insight in bracket, in inverted comma. Okay, the first point to note is the immediacy of this experience. In this respect, it doesn't differ from any other level of human experience which supply data or data for knowledge. All experience is immediate, that is first-hand. As the regions of normal experience are subject to interpretation, okay, so direct experience doesn't mean, in the first-hand experience doesn't mean that you don't need interpretation, are subject to interpretation of sense data for our knowledge of the external. So the region of mystic experience is subject to interpretation of our knowledge of God. Good. So the immediacy of mystic experience simply means that we know God just as we know other objects like first hand. So it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't mean that we can fully grasp God or our experience of God is of his self or whatever. It just means that it's a first hand experience, whatever the nature of that first hand experience actually might mean that we know God just as, so God is not mathematical. So I think this makes more sense, much more sense. Okay, so it seems like Gadamer's observations are relevant. A11 means primarily to be. A11 means to be still alive when something happened. And let's look at Gadamer's discussion a bit further. I'll write down next relevant observation and then we'll talk about it. So the start of Gadamer's next relevant line is the word A11 suggests immediacy. And now he talks about what immediacy actually means here. It means that with which something, immediacy is that with which something real is grasped. Real is grasped. Real meaning, something which you experience. And he goes on to say that unlike something which one, so what it excludes, so it includes so it includes something real is grasped, but what it excludes is so immediacy here means, according to Gadamer, that which something real is grasped, and it excludes what is not unattested by one's own experience. So, for example, it can be hearsay, or it can be inference, or just imagination, or if somebody surmised based on. So any inferential knowledge, whether it is deductive or inductive, is mediated knowledge. Okay, that's clear. But also what one hears from other is also non-immediate knowledge, and mainly what is not tested by one's own experience is not immediate knowledge, it is mediated. So immediate knowledge is always, according to Gadamer, so experience is always immediate knowledge, in the sense that And the next sentence says, what is experience? What is experience is always what one has experienced oneself. What you have experienced yourself, something real, in the sense that it's not an inference, it's not an hearsay, it's not the second. So experience is always what one has experienced oneself. So experience is always first-hand experience, and that's what we mean by immediacy. So this almost, what is experience is what one has experienced oneself, is almost the same as what Allama Iqbal said, that all experience is immediate. So that's pretty clear now. Gadamer has a lot of other things to say about it, but for our purpose, probably this is enough here for our purpose in the context of our reading, which we are looking at. This seems enough, or let me have a look again. And I think Gadamer goes on to say that with experience, immediacy of the experience being first-hand experience, and he says that it precedes interpretation. And the other thing, which is permanent content of what is experienced. That's his object. So that's lasting, and my experience overall is lasting. It's immediacy. But what is transitory is the probably actual process, and that is contingent, I guess. So I'll just read what Gadamer is saying, and we'll finish on that. But it is at the same time from der Erlebte is used to mean the permanent content of what is experienced. This means this content is like a yield. That's what Allama Iqbal calls object or result that achieves permanence, weight, and significance from out of the transience of experience. So subjective nature of experience is contrasted with what we grasp, what is the permanent content of what is experienced, or the object that is non-transient. That is non-transience in that. Both meaning obviously lie behind the coinage al-Leibniz, both the immediacy which precedes all interpretation, reworking and communication, merely offers a starting point for interpretation, which is based on the material or the content, and its discovered yield, which is your grasp of the object, its lasting results. The content is still the lasting one, and the subjective side, in a sense, is transient in that way, but not in the way that that immediacy cannot be replaced by anything else, because then it would be something else. Inference or hearsay, that would be something else. You won't have experience. You might have knowledge, but you won't have experience. Okay, let's go back to Iqbal and then finish it off for today. Okay, so the first point to note is the immediacy of experience. In this respect, it doesn't differ from other levels of human experience which supply data for knowledge. All experience is immediate, as regions of normal experience are subject to interpretation of sense data for our knowledge of the external world. So the regions of mystic experience is subject to interpretation of our knowledge of God. The immediacy of mystic experience simply means that we know God just as we know other objects. In all those um, nodes of experience we just analyze. God is not a mathematical entity or a system of concepts mutually related to one another, having no reference to experience. Yeah, I think that's enough. I'll continue it to the next point, hopefully next time, inshallah. Assalamu